Hello, everybody. Christine here, co-founder of Kndrd, and another weekly episode coming to you of the Co-Living Code Show. This week, I bring on Joseph Woodbury. He is the CEO of Kndrd. So Kndrd.com, which is essentially the Airbnb of storage here in the United States. And I know this isn't directly co-living. However, we talk about ways that co-living operators can actually use extra space to generate another line of revenue. And then we also talk about how people moving around, if they have extra, stuff, and they need to stick it somewhere. Let's say they live in Los Angeles and they have surfboards and video equipment or a drum set, and this has actually happened in our co-living homes, and they don't want to sell it. They're gonna travel overseas for a few months. They're gonna be back. Kndrd is a great app to use to find local storage space to keep your stuff safe, right? Versus using like regular public storage and signing a long lease. So essentially they are disrupting the $400 billion self-storage industry. Prior to starting Kndrd, Joseph worked for Bain and Company and Sorensen Capital. He's an awesome guy. It was so great. I know he's super busy. It's great for him to jump on and tell us more about what they're up to, what they're doing, and how, again, co-living can incorporate this into their business model. So enjoy. Hello, everybody. Christine here with another weekly episode of the Co-Living Code Show. And we have Joseph Woodbury on from Kndrd.com, which if you guys have not checked this out, and honestly, I just learned about it a couple weeks ago. It is a brilliant, so it's inspired, it's like the Airbnb inspired app for storage space. It's disrupting this massive storage industry. Joseph, thank you for coming on the show this week. I really appreciate it. We're excited to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And so you guys just closed a very successful round, 10 million from Andreessen Horowitz, just the end of January, right?
We felt like it represented bringing kind of the Airbnb and Uber teams together to back Kndrd. So we brought on Jeff Jordan from Andreessen Horowitz, who sits on the board of Airbnb and Instacart and a few of these other marketplaces, and then Ryan of Uber joined as an investor as well. So we're really excited to have them. They've obviously been through this before. They've built large global marketplaces, and they're going to try and help us take Kndrd to the next level.
Yeah, because the store, isn't it like a $400 billion market, the self-storage industry?
It is, and that's part of what attracted us to this is marketplaces are very, very difficult to build. And in fact, most of them fail. But the ones that succeed are those that are disrupting these large, archaic industries that haven't seen innovation in a long time. And storage just fits that bill. It's very similar to, taxis or hospitality. Again, these ultra large industries that just haven't seen a lot of innovation. Sometimes, when we tell people that $400 billion number, they're like, no way. So to help people, sometimes we'll tell them that there are more storage facilities in the US than there are McDonald's, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, Burger King's, Wendy's, Walmart's, Home Depot's, and Costco's combined. So it's kind of this out of sight, out of mind. They're all in these industrially zoned areas, and they're all full up to the brim, filled with storage. They can't build them fast enough. So it's really this hidden industry that is just massive.
Okay. No, Joseph, and I definitely want to bridge the gap for all our listeners and viewers where it's like, Christine, this isn't co-living. What's going on? Okay, listen, you guys, it's double-sided. Okay, first off, for the operators listening and watching, you guys might have, a garage. Maybe your residents don't have cars because you're close to public transport. And you guys have these garages that aren't full, that have empty space that you can rent out on Kndrd.com. You can put that space up for rent. Or parking spaces in your buildings. And then on the flip side, which I see this more often than not, is exactly, you're right. It's all this stuff that people, surfboards and video equipment and just large drum sets. And I'm talking about experience in my co-living homes. They didn't know where to put the stuff. They just didn't want to get, a big storage unit and sign a year agreement and all this stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's, so maybe we talk to some of that. I know you have a lot of experience with multifamily, give us some examples with these partnerships you've done with the multifamily apartment complexes.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of our platform is it really lets you rent out that unused space. So with these multifamily, apartment complexes and other places, they'll often have storage lockers in the basement that are meant for the tenants but aren't really being used, or extra parking spaces around the complex that aren't being used. And they'll go ahead and rent those out for long-term storage on our platform. And we'll come, park a vehicle long-term on that parking spot or put someone's boxes from the outside. I can see the application being really valuable for those in these shared co-living spaces, because you can't really leverage a platform like Airbnb to rent that space out because you're living there, right? Like you don't want someone else living there, you're living there. And you have all these people that are already in a co-living arrangement, but you may have unused non-living space. Maybe there's a shed out behind the co-living space, or extra space in the garage or the attic or what have you. And you can rent that out and it helps subsidize the cost for everyone of living in that co-living space.
No, I love that. And so everybody listening, this is how I found out about you guys, was in a WhatsApp group in Los Angeles. Somebody's like, hey, I've got a car that I need to park for a couple months. Like, does anybody know anybody where I could park it? And somebody put neighbor.com. And I was like, what's neighbor.com? I click on it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so smart. It's just on demand storage. So definitely the big question is that domain name. Like, how did you get that domain name?
Well, the brand is very important to us. Like ultimately in a marketplace, what we are selling is not storage. Like our users are selling storage. We are selling trust. And so we wanted a way to communicate the kind of community that we've created on neighbor.com. And neighbor really has a strong connotation. You choose the neighbors that you live by. You trust your neighbors. There's kind of this Mr. Rogers-esque feel with the term, and we love that, and that's the community we want to build. So we went out and acquired it. It was someone had owned it and wasn't using it. Classic domain story where they'd owned it for 20, 25 years, and we approached them about purchasing it, and of course they were like, "No, I'm just going to sit on this forever." But as we talked to them and about the use case for it, we were able to come to an agreement. And now we love the brand that we provide. It really helps people feel the togetherness. And the last thing I'll say is I love that our brand underscores the hyper local nature of our marketplace. So a lot of these big marketplace companies like Airbnb and Uber and others, they're destination marketplaces. So you use an Airbnb when you're in Thailand, but you're probably never going to see that person again. Uber you use when you go to Chicago and you need an Uber because you don't have a car. But neighbor you use within your own community. We often our renters are renting from storage from someone that lives 3 doors down from them. So they truly are renting from a neighbor. And we love that we're making communities have these face-to-face interactions.
I love, see guys, technology. These smartphones make everything so much easier, right? Because it's that layer that was missing to connect all these neighbors to say, oh my gosh, I have an extra like closet or garage space, like, and you're just facilitating that through technology. And you guys started in 2017, right? So like, so how did you come up with the idea originally?
So actually my co-founder came up with it. We were in school at the time. And we're all kind of planning on starting our full-time jobs. I was headed off to a consulting firm, Bain and Company. He, though, his last summer before his senior year, one of his clients in this marketing company that he ran while he was in school was down in South America. It was a big humanitarian org, and they asked him to come down and film some projects for them. So he went down there and needed a storage unit and looked into getting one and had the same experience that I think everyone has when they try to get a storage unit. He was going to have to drive like 30 minutes across town to put his items in, and they were going to charge him as a student several $100s a month, which is like a mini mortgage, right? And then, the space itself was like not the most attractive thing in the world, dusty and kind of dirty, and they're not that safe, right? Like 1 in 10 storage facilities gets broken into every year. So he was like, I'm not going to do this. This is ridiculous. And found a friend with a nice garage that let him store in his garage. And when he got back after that summer, he went to pick his items up and he just thought, with my items in this nice garage, and it saved me a lot of money because I just paid my friend instead of this storage facility. Why doesn't there exist some sort of directory for garages and other excess space around the world? And so he started Neighbor, and he pulled myself and our other co-founder Colton on, and we've been doing it ever since. We just few short years, but we now offer storage in all 50 states, so it's grown.
That was my next question. So you guys are in all 50 states?
Yeah, that's right. We started in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we got our first customers literally by knocking doors and asking people if they wanted to make some excess money on their space. And we got a good response from it because a lot of people had said, especially some of these empty nesters had said, I'm not that comfortable with using an Airbnb. I've thought about doing Airbnb, but it's a little invasive. But I'd be totally fine to have someone come drop their boat off on the side of my house or put some boxes in my attic. And it just ballooned from there, and word of mouth. When you start having customers making $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a year renting out excess space, that's meaningful income, and they tell their friends, and it's just kind of spread across the US to where last year we hit our 50th state. So
congrats, yeah. Joseph. That's a great story. I love that. And you guys are still, so your headquarters, you're in Utah. Your headquarters, are you guys in Salt Lake City, your headquarters?
That's right. Yeah, basically Salt Lake City, just south in a little tech hub called Lehigh.
Nice. Okay. And you grew up there in Utah?
I'm actually from Vegas originally, personally. I came to Utah for school, and that's where I met my co-founder at BYU. And then our other co-founder was also here in Utah, going to the University of Utah.
Cool. And then let's jump to the tech part. So another interesting stat I saw from one of your guys' press releases recently was that like Public Storage, CubeSmart, like some of the big guys, like it's like $60 billion worth of these storage, companies, and they don't have an iOS app. One of them has like an Android app. So they don't even have an app like at all.
It's crazy how underserved this market is. It's just, you'd think 2020, that would be a priority, but you're right. Take Public Storage, for instance. They are a $43 billion public company, the largest storage company in the world, don't even have a mobile app. And we're based out of Utah. Actually, the largest company in the whole state of Utah, no matter what type of company, just the largest company is a storage company. It's a company called Extra Space Storage, $15 billion public company, doesn't have a mobile app. So this market is really underserved from a technology perspective, and especially given that millennials are the fastest growing storage cohort. They are, all of the growth in the industry is coming from this millennial cohort. We think it's really short-sighted by these large players, again, billion-dollar companies, to not even serve them with the technology that they use almost every day.
And then when we're talking millennials, and even like if we even say Gen Z coming up, do you feel like, I know we had these couple decades of like the McMansions and buy, especially in the US, like buy, and fill these big, huge homes with a ton of stuff. But minimalism, Marie Kondo, like these are becoming movements. Do you see the storage industry like shrinking anytime soon? And then people just using each other's like free space like you're doing?
So actually, no. Minimalism was a kind of a buzzword topic to write about for journalists for a long time, but millennials, as I mentioned, are using storage rates. They're not just the fastest growing cohort. They're using storage at higher rates than their parents did. And so, I'm sure there are minimalist millennials out there. We love them. They're our hosts, right? But our renters, there are many millennials who need storage space, and this is largely because storage is a new industry. The First storage units were built in the late 50s, early 60s. And so that first generation of early adopters used storage units. And now their kids, the kids of those first users are coming online. And because their parents used it, they're much more comfortable renting a storage unit. Now, one thing we do know is these millennial users, and I'm sure you've seen this with co-living, they're very environmentally conscious. And the reality is storage is not the most environmentally conscious solution. I mean, we're building all of this extra space just to house our items. I looked the other day, there's almost 2 billion square feet of rentable self-storage in the United States. You could fit every man, woman, and child simultaneously in a storage unit at the same time. That's how much storage we've built. And what our solution does is it says, enough. That's absurd to be building extra space for our stuff. Let's just use the space we already have. And so it's a much more environmentally conscious solution as well.
I love, love, love that. And then maybe this stat. You have all these great stats off the top of your head. I love it. So I know a lot of these big brands of self-storage, it's like $1 for the first month, because they know statistically you're just going to leave your stuff there. You're not going to get it out after a month, right? Do you know any like percentages? I'm always curious, like how many months for stuff?
Oh yeah. The discounting in the storage industry is terrible. They will get you in at a cheap price and oftentimes free for your first month. But then what they do is 6 months later, they hike the price on you. And then 6 months after that, they hike the price on you again. And then 6 months after that. So you can start out paying $200 a month on a storage unit. And 2 years later, you're paying $450 a month on a storage unit. It's like a little mini mortgage that you have to take care of. One thing we do on Neighbor is we lock in the price. So when you start, that's the price. We do allow our hosts, if they want to make their space more attractive, our hosts can offer a first month discount to their users to be competitive with the storage facilities. But once you're in a unit, your price does not increase.
That's amazing. I love that. And then what are some unique, I know you talked about, maybe they have a shed in the backyard, they have a closet, a garage, garage space, a parking space. What about like the side, if somebody had like an RV or a boat, could they park that on the side of somebody's house, or does it need to be covered?
No, yeah, we have a lot of uncovered parking. People have an extra driveway space, or in some places they term it, like an RV pad or a concrete pad next to their home. Those get rented out on our platform. And if you don't have a boat, that's just wasted space. We've even had some users email in and say, it's so great. I had this empty space next to my house and someone came and stored their boat. And now my neighbors think I have a boat. It makes my house look better.
Oh my God, that's interesting. How funny. And then what are some cities? So you're in, like you said, all 50 states. What are the top 3 cities that that you guys have the most like users on?
Well, we started in Utah. So Salt Lake City, Lehigh, Provo, that whole metro area is huge for us, just because that's where we founded this company 3 years ago. California is also a huge market for us, as is Texas. LA, specifically in California, is a very large market for us. People just have a lot of extra space, but it's also a pretty dense market, so they're in need of storage. The marketplace is really healthy there.
And then I know it's a double-sided marketplace, obviously. So you've got people that have space that people can use, and then you've got people that have too much stuff that they need to store. What side do you guys need more of right now?
Absolutely supply. The hosts, those that have extra space in their home. It is such a big market, as we kind of started out talking about on this podcast. There are renters to spare. In fact, the storage industry, this is the problem they're having. Last year, the storage industry spent $5.5 billion just on new construction to try and build enough space. Right now, the average occupancy nationwide in storage facilities is 93%. And so that means that there's a lot of facilities that are at 100% occupancy to bring the average all the way up to 93%. And so really the demand is far outstripping the supply. You just can't build the facilities fast enough. Now, what we've done is we've unlocked all of this latent supply. And so we have users in all 50 states at this point, but we still need more of them. It's not enough to meet the demand in the storage industry.
And then, so, again, reminder to all the co-living operators that are listening to the show, this is an added revenue line, right? If they have extra space somewhere on their property, is there any other like unique ways that an actual co-living operator could come onto your platform and make use of this extra space?
Yeah, that's the best part is it's just passive, predictable income. There's lots of gig economy solutions to earn an extra buck out there, but most of them, whether it's Uber or DoorDash or whatever, require you to put in significant amounts of actual work, right? You're going to drive around to earn any money. Even platforms like Airbnb are going to require you have extra living space, which is hard to come by. Um, and then this constant maintenance. Someone comes and stays for a day, you have to clean up after them, and then you have to find another customer. Constant customer turnover. What we love about Kndrd is it's just this long-term solution, passive income solution for your property. So if you're a co-living operator, you can fill up the space and have that, $300-400 coming in every single month, and you can count on it. So a lot of our users they literally depend on it to pay their mortgages. They'll write in and they'll say, because it's so predictable, I pay, 30-40% of my mortgage every single month with my earnings from Kndrd. And I don't lift a finger to do it because that person's not going to come get their boat. They just put it in September and they're not going to come get it until June. And so I never have to talk to them. It's just really passive.
That's incredible. And then is it a 1 month minimum, or what's the minimum term?
Minimum 1 month. People can store for less time. They can request to store for 2 weeks, but they will pay a month's rent.
Got it. And then what's your average like across the platform?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Public storage, I think their average is 36 months.
Gosh.
So people store a long time. But as a co-living operator or as a host on our platform, we make it so that the renter, when they're booking your space, they tell you about how long they expect to rent it, whether it's 6 months or 2 years or whatever. And so you have a good idea about how long they plan on staying. And if you ever needed to sell your space or whatever, you just have to provide a certain notice to your renter so that they have ample time to vacate. And we handle all that.
Love it. Oh my gosh. Again, using technology to make life so much easier. Joseph, thank you so much. And again, congrats on your recent raise. We're all going to
Thank
cheer you
you.
on, and anybody listening, especially the operators here in the States, definitely a great, great platform to check out and use. And yeah, sharing space, the sharing economy. Don't you just love it?
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks so much for having me on.
Of course. Thanks. Thank you so much for checking out today's episode. If you want to learn more about co-living, you could check out my book on Amazon, The Co-Living Code. And of course, if you're looking for the perfect software to power your co-living concept, check out Kndrd.io, Kndrd.io. Thanks. And a quick thank you to SPX Agency for all of the graphics, animation, and design on our YouTube channel.